I caught them in. I've seen my leader about 4 times.
Yeah, so honestly,
I saw White's house. They got together on White's house. That's when I saw it. Got the Rolling Stones in Vegas. Rolling Stones in Vegas. Back around 6. We got a problem. Somebody again. He dropped like 10 grand. He went all back. He said, you know, like tickets to go to the man. Well, I like it. Now I'm like, just call someone out. Like his, check them out.
the only thing is they could break a hip, you know, because they're that may be dangerous. Hey, how are you? And I'm gonna shake out.
No, I did. Oh, we're going to do Saturday.
Yeah, I know. Make sure it's talking about just downtown. Merchants are raising all kind of hooks, costing a fortune, and the parents are dressing up and taking candy instead of the kids, so it's out of control. But yeah, the actual regular church is downtown. Yeah, I'll probably be out. That's what he's talking about. I'll be out there soon, so I don't think. And it's not. Jeff will probably take time to get it. But yeah. I'll be out.
Yeah.
You brought some good luck?
I hope.
I'm slowly getting back. Slowly getting back. He's slowly coming in. Hey, no, I didn't. I had 11 of them. It's definitely being late. She had 8. She just had a feeling she never even knew.
Yes, sir. 3 advertised.
Shake your hand.
You did. I'll do it again.
She's old, but that day they transferred to Scott.
So I'll tell them I'll be out next week.
She stayed there like 2 days.
I'll get all my committee stuff ready. I'll just get some. Have you got it?
Oh, yeah, she's not writing right along. Oh, yeah. And a word.
Yeah, we may have been. Actually, so big. Actually, I don't think.
I can tell you, she kicks me out.
It might be still. That'd be cool. She could do it right now.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, before we begin tonight's meeting, just want to remind everyone that we will maintain order in the chamber. As a presiding official, I'm charged with the responsibility of making sure that all business is conducted in a respectful manner. Respect for the legislative body, respect for the mayor, and respect for one another should be the goals we strive to attain. Let me be perfectly clear, council, committee meetings, and public hearings will be conducted in an orderly fashion. It is only with proper decorum and respect for everyone that the business of this city can be conducted in a timely manner with everyone given fair and equal treatment. Please do not interrupt the person who has the floor. You are not to speak unless recognized by the presiding official. Excuse me. Outbursts from the public will not be tolerated. You will be called out of order, and any further outburst will be cause for removal. Public input is welcome, however, public disruption of a meeting is not allowed. When called upon to address a committee or the full council or a public hearing, the individual must be recognized by the presiding official. The use of vulgar language is inappropriate and disrespectful. It will not be permitted in this chamber, but if used by anyone, you will be escorted out of the chamber. Threats and aggressive behavior from anyone in this chamber, either verbal or physical, will result in immediate removal. Weapons of any kind are not allowed inside the chamber unless you are an on-duty commissioned officer. If you are called out of order, you will immediately cease your action or behavior. A 3-minute minimum, a 5-minute maximum rule will be strictly enforced for all who have been granted the floor to speak by the presiding officer. Discussion will be germane to the topic, and only the presiding official will be allowed to interrupt the speaker. I'm asking everyone to please adhere to these, and nothing less than your full cooperation is acceptable, and nothing more is given, and my full commitment to see it through that we abide by these instructions. Thank you very much for your cooperation. Pledge of Allegiance, Mr. Reddy. Thank you. I would like to call on Dr. Izora Proctor for an invocation, please.
Thank you. Let us pray, please. Most gracious and loving God, we come once again to do business on behalf of the citizens of Crowley. God, we pray that you would bless our mayor, bless the city council members and their families. Keep them safe. Lord, give our mayor and the council the wisdom that they need. Give them the knowledge to make great decisions that would be of benefit to our citizens. Bless those who come. Bless the stakeholders and all the individuals who are citizens of Crowley and beyond. We pray that you would continue to bless this city of Crowley. Let it flourish. We pray that you would not let any harm come to the citizens. Guide us, lead us, and wherever we'll give you the glory and the praise, because we know that it is you who has done it. In Jesus' name, amen.
Amen. Thank you. Madam Clerk, roll call, please.
Jeff Cavell,
Here.
Brad Core,
Here.
Clint Cradell,
Here.
Lyle Fogelman,
Here.
Vernon Martin, Stephen Primo,
Here.
Samuel Reggie,
Here.
Kim Stringfellow,
Here.
Byron Woolridge.
Thank you, ma'am. Reading of the call, please.
Notice of a public hearing and proposed adoption of ordinance.
The Board of Aldermen of the City of Crowley shall meet in special session on the 27th day of September 2021 at 6 o'clock p.m. in the council chambers, second floor Criminal Justice Building, 426 North Avenue F, Crowley, Louisiana, to hold a public hearing and to consider the adoption of the following ordinance. An ordinance amending and enlarging the corporate boundary of the City of Crowley, Acadia Parish, Louisiana, defining the boundaries of a tract of land containing 4.307 acres located in Section 29, Township 9 South, Range 1 East, Acadia Parish, Louisiana, shown as Tract A on a certain plot of survey showing property to be acquired by Doug Miller, dated May 3rd, 2021, prepared by Ryan E. Hebert, registered professional land surveyor, located adjacent to VFW Drive and the south boundary of I-10. A portion of which tracts is within the corporate limits of the city, and a portion of which lies just west of the existing corporate boundary of the City of Crowley, which tract is proposed to be included within the corporate limits of the City of Crowley, to provide that the property so annexed and all of the tract be a zoned C3 highway commercial district, to provide that the area so annexed shall be part of Ward 1 of the City of Crowley, to provide the areas so annexed shall be part of District 1 North of the Special Gateway Overlay Districts in Section 3.314 of the zoning ordinance and redefine the boundary thereof, to redefine and restate the boundary of the corporate limits of the City of Crowley, to repeal all ordinances or parts of ordinances contrary thereto or in conflict therewith, to provide for the provisions hereof to be severable, and to provide for all matters relative thereto. The agenda of the special meeting was posted at City Hall on Friday, September 24th, 2021 at 11:45 a.m. and the agenda was transmitted to all members of the council and all persons requesting notice as required by law at the same time.
Thank you, ma'am. We now suspend our regular meeting, our special meeting and open public hearing. Mr. Reagan?
Thank you, Mayor. Good evening. This is a public hearing to receive comments on proposed ordinance number 1526. You heard the full description just a moment ago. It's an ordinance to amend and enlarge the corporate boundary by including a tract of land defined in Section 8 containing Tract A, 4.307 acres in Section 29, Township 9 South, Range 1 West, Acadia Parish, adjacent to VFW Drive in the south boundary of I-10, a portion of which lies within the corporate limits and a portion which lies just west of the corporate limits of the city, which will include the incorporation of all the properties so annexed, and that the Tract A be zoned highway commercial C3, that the area be part of Ward 1, find that the part of District 1 North of the Special Gateway District, and to redefine the boundaries of the corporate limits of the City of Crowley. If anyone wishes to speak in favor of this ordinance at this time, please come forward. The first call for the proponents. First call if anyone wishes to speak in favor. Second call for the proponents. Please step forward at this time. Planners, you give us your full name and your address, who you're representing, please, sir.
James Landry on behalf of Ted and Judy Carmichael, the present owners of the property. I think all of y'all are pretty familiar with the matter at hand. I'm here to answer any questions y'all may have as far as the annexation and rezoning petition that we filed on behalf of Mr. and Mrs. Carmichael. They feel the property being annexed and rezoned to C3 is the highest and best use for that 4-acre tract of land, and that it will generate significant tax dollars for the city, which they can use in their infrastructure projects down the road. So if anybody has any questions, I'll be glad to try to answer.
Yeah, Mr. Landry, are we allowed to ask questions now? Okay. Mr. Landry, you represent Ms. Carmichael?
Correct.
How long has that property been up for sale?
How long has it been up for sale? I would say probably 6 months.
6 months? Okay, that's all. Okay.
Any other questions? Thank you, Mr. Landry.
Thank you.
Anyone else? Please.
Good evening, everybody. I just wanted to state again that, you know, I see a great opportunity for Crowley, as I seen in Karen Crow and Scott. I have my name is Doug Miller. I'm a developer out of Lafayette. And I seen a great opportunity over here for Crowley. I'm from this area, grew up in Crowley, in this area. I have a business that's growing in Lafayette. I see how it works over in Karen Crow and Scott. It'll be great for me. It'll be great for the city to come in and maybe help, hopefully, give Crowley the boost it needs to get going. You know, we got a lot of good things happening out here with the athletic fields. If we come in, everything goes well. You know, the tax dollars should be great for the city, to help all the policemen, the firemen, and support your city. I've never intended to come in and do anything not good for the city. I just want to let everybody know that. I'm coming here with a great business, nice buildings, very professional, and I don't see anything not good about it. I just see good things coming out of it. So thank you, and if anybody has any questions, you know, if I would move over to the parish, you know, it would be to put a sewer treatment plant back there would not be good. Nobody would want that. Would be way worse. I'm just letting everybody know that. So if we can get this into the city, use the city water, city sewer, everybody's gonna be happy. We're gonna have great businesses out there, and everything should be fine.
Any questions? Mr. Martin?
Sir, you have an establishment over in Scott as well, correct?
That's correct.
Okay. Just for the record, if you don't get a favorable vote, and you just emphasize that you would be bringing it to the parish, but it would be at added expense to you.
That's correct.
Okay, sir. No other questions, thank you.
I mean, I will, I'm hoping the vote goes good, but if not, I'm just gonna move forward and move to the side. You know, I've had a lot of clients that were ready to sign leases, and, you know, I don't know, you know, I need to go back to them, but I need to get concrete down before the winter sets in. So I need to move forward.
Springfield?
Thank you. Mr. Miller, do you know about the size of your structure roughly? I know you.
I mean, I was gonna propose, I had probably 10,000, 11,000 square feet on the first building that I had probably people ready to sign leases. But since it's been 4 months now, I gotta go back to them, so I don't know what it's gonna be. For sure, it's gonna be probably a 4,000 to 5,000 square foot building for my store, if anything. But I have spoken to a few people with coffee shops, and that I feel very confident that they're gonna come in.
So it just depends on the
Yeah, I mean,
vendors.
they waiting on me, and, so it's, I'm not gonna go promise people something that I can't do.
Thank you.
Cora?
Mr. Miller, where do you propose to have the specialty meat store? Would that be closest to Broad Acres, or have you made a decision on that, or where would the second or retail building be?
Well, I mean, you have all your setbacks from the highway. So we're gonna have parking in the front, and then there's gonna be the buildings that's gonna run with I-10 more than likely, and there's gonna be, probably still from the back of the building to Broad Acres, it could probably be at least 60, 70 feet, and it could be.
Okay.
I feel it's somewhere around there, but, the way it's set up right now,
Right, so they'll be shifted a little bit further to
It
the
needs to be
west.
shifted back a little bit because the building's the back corner's probably gonna be in the residential. You know, where it's residential now.
Right,
That's why I really needed to move. And then the closer we get to the exit, everybody knows that's where you wanna be.
Yes.
The closest spot to the exit, easy on, easy off.
Are you planning on doing two buildings or you said,
Eventually, there would be two there.
right, and which would be, closest to Broad Acres Drive? Would that be the special meat store?
I mean, they would both be the same setback from I-10.
No, I was talking about from Broad Acres heading west, you'd have two buildings.
Oh, yeah, from Broadacre, I mean, I
Going
don't
away
know,
from Park.
not positive yet on that. It could be my store, it could be coffee shop.
I
Just
see.
depends.
Oh, I see.
You know, I don't know, you know, I'm in debating on what side for me to be on right now. Because if you look at the lines that you could create, you wanna make sure that they're not interfering with your parking.
Sure.
You know, that's a big thing. And then some of the tenants are asking for like, you know, eight or more spaces in the drive-through before they get affected. You know, so like that's things to be discussed.
Thank you.
All right.
Martin?
Just one more thing. Well, I just happen to be in the same business that you in, and, only question I have for you, you will be installing a cul-de-sac, correct?
What's
Will
that?
it be a cul-de-sac that's going into the, will it be I'm asking, will it be a cul-de-sac or will it be,
A cul-de-sac? No, there's no cul-de-sac.
that's what I'm asking, okay?
Yeah,
So
no,
basically,
no,
okay.
no. But my entrance is gonna come off of VFW Drive, okay? And-
Oh, so you'll be strictly right, left turn?
Well, they're gonna come, the state's only gonna give me one entrance.
I know, correct.
One entrance in, I'm gonna come in at one spot. Now, I will have a one-foot of drive going out to Broad Acres on the right.
That's what I wanted.
Yeah,
to
there is
okay.
gonna be a drive going out,
Okay.
but my drive-through is gonna wrap around the building and go back to the front.
So in
You
other
know, so
words-
all the traffic should be, the majority of the traffic is gonna be channeled back to VFW
VFW?
Drive in
Okay.
front of the building, yes, sir.
Thank you, sir.
And because there's no reason for nobody to go behind the building unless they go in the drive-through.
Gotcha, thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Miller.
Okay, all right.
Third and final call for the proponents, third and final call. Anyone else wishing to speak? Henry, give us your name and address, please.
Sir,
Name and address, please. Identify yourself.
Henry Hilo, 402 Blue Lake Drive. I live in Lawrence Acres. And I'm just gonna read, I wrote a brief statement. And all my discussions with Ted Carmichael, Ted's intentions for the property has always been to minimally impact the neighborhood, as he's also a resident of that neighborhood. And he doesn't want to see any major changes in that neighborhood. Summer, my wife and I, we have friends at the end of Azalea Drive. We spend time with them, our kids play together, and when many of them voice their concerns, we have let Ted know, and he has directly addressed it with those residents. One of the main drivers for these concerns is that people have been told by those, passing out the petition, is that Ted intends to open up Azalea Drive into the neighborhood from the service road. And all my discussions with Ted is that whether the property in question, if it remains commercial or residential, Azalea will never be opened up to the service road. Doing so doesn't make sense for two reasons. One is that it opens up our neighborhood to unsolicited traffic. And two, from a financial standpoint, why would anyone spend hundreds of thousands of dollars ensuring valuable acreage that could be sold for residential or business purposes? It just doesn't make any business sense. Ted has assured us that he will build a fence along the subdivision for two reasons. One, he feels obligated to those neighbors to insulate them and give them privacy. And two, to show that he is blocking the Azalea Drive off from ever being opened up. Being in the neighborhood, people have gone around and, solicited people for the petition. And, whether it was their intention or not to be misleading, a majority of the people that I talked to said the main reason that they signed the petition was because they thought that Azalea Drive was being opened up. Now, whether it was written on that paper that they were handing out or not, I don't think it was. It was still spoken to people, and they were like, "Oh, you opened up Azalea Drive? My signature's on there." And when they come forward tonight, they do have a lot of signatures, but a lot of people that I've spoken with in the neighborhood felt they would never have signed it if they wouldn't have been given that information. As a business person in Acadia Parish and Crowley, and a resident of Lawrence Acres, I would urge the committee to make the best decision, not the committee, the city council, the best decisions here tonight for the city of Crowley. Over the last 20 years, we have seen an exodus of good and valuable workers as they seek opportunities in other parts of the state, specifically in Lafayette. Any business in town will not only bring additional revenues through sales tax, but will also have valuable jobs and give locals the opportunity to live and work where they've grown up. For the health of the city and its future growth, no other thing will impact the community more. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, sir. Anyone else speak? Last call for the proponents.
Okay, we will now move to the opponents. Anyone wish to speak in favor, again, I'm sorry, the opponents,
Who oppose this ordinance, please come forward at this time. There's a group I see. Is there a designated spokesman, first of all, that we can get a statement from? Or is it open individuals? Excuse me.
Good evening. My name is Hope Rosinski, but I do have a statement to make about that. If Ted Carmichael is selling the property, how can he make statements of what he's going to do with it? So that is a concern. I'm here on behalf of my mother, Shirley Rosinski, who resides at 239 Broad Acres Drive, and also on behalf of the 90 residents of Lawrence Acres who signed a petition opposing the rezoning of residential property to C3. This is what was told, this is what was on the petition. And, you know, Azalea Drive, I think Mr. Landry did address to the fact that it could be, you know, made to go through. The consideration of the proposed ordinance for rezoning seems to be based on the theory that the property on the corner of VFW Drive and Broad Acres Drive has been zoned C3. To further investigate this theory, all records of this property, including the current ordinances, have been requested via public records request. Letters received from the city clerk in response to the request stated, quote, many of the City of Crowley's historical records that were stored in the basement of City Hall were lost in the flood of 2016. Other records were lost due to a roof leak and water penetrating the walls of City Hall, unquote. Also requested were records verifying this flood and or damage claim, such as contracts, invoices, insurance claims, and a list of other types of records, but no document was provided. Several people in the community have been asked about the flood or roof leakage incident, including a member of the prior administration. The consensus is that there is no evidence of this event. The records for the property in question are important because it needs to be determined why and how a piece of property in a residential district on a residential street would be legally zoned as C3. A commercial district that allows all sorts of businesses, including barrooms, nightclubs, and lounges, adopted to be part of a neighborhood seems suspect of favoritism. To date, there is no proof that an ordinance was adopted legally or even adopted at all to zone the property in question as C3. When you look around Crowley, there is evidence of many business failures. If you adopt the proposed ordinance and these future businesses fail, you are allowing a commercial district that represents unfavorable businesses to intrude upon the neighborhood. We have previously mentioned concerns about added noise, odors, pollution, the potential for crime, the infringement upon privacy, safety concerns, and traffic congestion. There will be all sorts of commotion going on behind the businesses with the drive-thrus, delivery personnel, people hanging out on smoke breaks, peering over the fence, etc. In addition, Lawrence Acres has current problems that will be made worse by the development, which include substandard roads and issues with drainage and flooding. These concerns are also associated with the entire construction process, including the timeline that will impact the neighborhood. Property values will decrease. The residents of Lawrence Acres are not people of substantial wealth, power, or political influence, nor do they live behind a gated fence for their safety and security. They do trust you, their city council, to be concerned about their homes, their private lives, and their overall well-being. By the latest public records received, it appears the council has already made a decision. a decision that has not offered any concessions to these residents. These people are just as important as those with wealth, power, and political influence. Any suggested accommodations have only favored the project. According to the city's website, Crowley should qualify for the USDA's Rural Business Development Grant. If the project were to move forward, the grant or any grant could help with concessions. At the very least, funds should be dedicated to construct a concrete barrier or to make Broadacres Drive a dead end. As it appears today, the entire corner of VFW Drive and Broadacres Drive should be classified as R1. This council cannot, in good conscience, vote in favor of rezoning residential property within Lawrence Acres subdivision to commercial. It has been stated in prior meetings that the city council can do what they want. This may have some truth, but it doesn't mean that what they do is legal. We are asking that you keep your conscience clear by respecting the residents and rules and restrictions of Lawrence Acres, but vote against this rezoning of property from R1 to C3. Thank you.
Anyone else wish to speak? Second call for the opponents.
I'm Kevin Gotro, live at 265 Broadacres. First, I'd like to address Mr. Hilo. First of all, everybody that lived in Lawrence Acres back there, it was already in their head that they would open up Broadacres. That's their worst fear. I didn't have to put that in their head. That's not why they signed the petition. They signed the petition to keep a barrier between the subdivision and the commercial property. It's not hard to read. It's 17 letters, 17 words on the petition. It says nothing about opening up Broadacres Azalea to VFW. Okay, by now, all of you are well aware of the neighborhood's concern for this proposed development so close to Lawrence Acres. I could go on and on about what was said in past meetings. In the end, it doesn't really matter. The city and the council want what they want at all means. This opposition was never about stopping the development, but always more about protecting Lawrence Acres and its residents. We certainly know now that the council wants this development at all costs, even if it means disrupting our small, quiet, peaceful neighborhood. We hear how this development will be great for Crowley, how we'll have beautiful landscape coffee shops, places of worship, and almost the best boudin around. But most of all, it will bring the almighty sales tax. What concerns me is that not once did we ever hear from the city of Crowley, the council, or the developer about what they were going to do to protect the neighborhood. I guess what we were really hoping for was that the city and the developer would come to a compromise to make this work for all involved, but this never materialized. Tell me why we can't all be happy. Our neighborhood can be protected, and at the same time, the city can get that development. It is possible. From what I have learned is that when residential commercial property abut, there's a buffer zone between the two with a fence on the commercial side. The width of the buffer is determined by how the commercial property is utilized. If this proposed rezoning is carried out, we, the residents of Lawrence Acres, ask for the maximum buffer allowed and the tallest fence allowed placed on the ground that does not hold water and sloped in a manner that it would drain during periods of heavy rain. We also ask that Broadacres Drive be dead-ended at the commercial property to eliminate unwanted traffic. If all involved really care about this neighborhood, they will make this happen. This is how you will protect Lawrence Acres.
Thank you. Anyone else wishing to speak in opposition to this proposal? Third and final call. Anyone else wishing to speak in opposition? Harrison, raise your hand.
Okay. Public hearing is now closed. We can now resume our special council meeting. Item number 7 is to consider the adoption of the ordinance 1526, an ordinance amending and enlarging the corporate boundary of the city of Crowley, Acadia Parish, Louisiana, defining the boundary of a tract of land containing 4.307 acres located in section 29, township 9 south, range 1 east, Acadia Parish, Louisiana, shown as tract 8 on that certain plat of survey showing property to be acquired by Doug Miller, dated May 3rd, 2021, prepared by Ryan P. Abear, registered professional land surveyor, located adjacent to VFW Drive and the south boundary of I-10, a portion of which tract is within the corporate limits of the city and a portion of which lies just west of the existing corporate boundary of the city of Crowley, which tract is proposed to be included within the corporate limits of the city of Crowley, to provide that the property so annexed and all of tract A be zoned C3 Highway Commercial District, to provide the area so annexed shall be a part of Ward 1 of the city of Crowley, to provide the areas so annexed shall be a part of District 1 North of the Special Gateway Overlay Districts in Section 3.14 of the zoning ordinance and redefine the boundary thereof, to redefine and restate the boundary of the corporate limits of the city of Crowley, to repeal all ordinance or parts of ordinances contrary thereto or in conflict therewith, to provide for the provisions hereof to be severable, and to provide for all matters relative thereto. I ask for a motion, please.
Mr. Mayor, I so move.
Offered by Mr. Cavell. Seconded by Mr. Cord. Discussion. Ms. Stringfellow.
Thank you, Mayor. I was just about to ask Mr. Core. So the entirety of Track A will be sold to Mr. Miller, right? Am I correct? Or he'll have more than Track A?
That is correct. It's a single tract. Tract A is defined as 4.307 acres. It will be annexed as a single unit, incorporated into the city. It's just like when you have two or more lots together. This is one 4-acre tract of land.
I understand that will be incorporated, but Mr. Miller will own further than that. So he will own.
No, ma'am, we have nothing to do with further anything outside the city. I don't know anything. I don't know any answers to that. Would have to come from Mr. Miller, who is here. Mr. Miller, are you buying anything else besides 4.3 acres?
No, sir, not at this time.
Okay. Okay, thank you.
Any further discussion? Mr. Martin?
Okay, I'm taking notes right here, and I'm trying to understand something. So the property has been up for sale for over 6 months. So basically, anyone could have bought the property. Anybody could have walked up there and said, you know what, I want this property. It wasn't conclusive to anybody, it wasn't promised to anybody, it was open sale. Okay? And there was a comment made about rural development, a grant or what have you, for a sound wall. I've been dealing with rural development for a minute, and that's a special request right there. I've never witnessed, but maybe it can be, I'm not sure. But I think one of the main things that the city has an obligation to do is to satisfy the tax base. Okay, we cannot pay our bills without our tax base. But we also have judiciary responsibility to the citizens. And before this vote is taken, I would ask that somewhere down the line, whether it's with the neighborhood and the owner, if this is successful, that maybe they'll get together and come up with a solution. I understand that Mr. Carmichael was willing to put up a fence. I'm not sure what type of fence he's putting up, whatever it is. But everything is conducive to the neighborhood. But to say that the property was up for sale, and just, was there a covenant on the property? Was there a covenant on the property? In other words, something that could be done and could not be done?
No.
Okay, thank you. All right, no further questions, thank you.
Any further discussion? Ms. Stringfellow?
And I'm sorry to continue the discussion. I know everybody wants to make it quick, but this has been an issue for me because I've been speaking with both parties. And as everyone knows, this is in mine and Mr. Cavell's ward. So I've been speaking to a lot of the citizens in that neighborhood, and I want to thank all of them for their involvement and interest in, you know, and I applaud their enthusiasm in coming here and speaking to us. And I would love for other citizens to do that, regardless if I agree with them or not. It makes us better public servants to have your input. We need that. But I still have some questions regarding the property, and I understand that the developer has to do a traffic study and a drainage study, and I didn't know if that is done when he turns in the plans to Mr. Tony Duyon. Do you know?
There's a number of things that are gonna have to be done even after this is voted for or against. There are a number of things that has to be done, and Mr. Dudon can answer all of those questions for you, along with planning review
So,
There are a number of other things that need to be done in addition to this hearing. This hearing only deals with the annexation, rezoning the property and designation in the rezoning.
right, I
I mean,
understand
excuse
that.
me, in the hearing, for the.
Right, I understand that, but that's,
But all of the other, requirements of the code, for instance, is about this cul-de-sac, well, that, Zaya Drive is already a dead end. They're not proposing anything beyond the Zaya Drive.
right, I
And
know that,
also,
yes.
there will not be any traffic through there as far as I can see. But again, he's gonna have to have a plan and show that's what his plan is going to be. There'll be a layout of the buildings, the parking lots, all the things that are required by the Gateway District Ordinance will be in there, about the facade requirements, all of those things will be reviewed by the zoning inspector's office. That's another process that this whole project will go through.
Okay, yes, I understand that. I read the Gateway Overlay Ordinance, and it references a Crowley flood protection ordinance in that. I didn't know where that was found, so if I could maybe, you know, get with Mr. Tony, I guess, after, or Mr. Mader, I was hoping he might be here, so I could see, because I'm just expressing the concerns of their neighbors in that area, and they're concerned about the traffic and the drainage. And no matter what we decide here tonight, you know, I want to continue to help them with both of those issues, along with Mr. Mader and yourself, Mayor, and Mr. Reagan, and of course, Mr. Duyon. So whatever happens here tonight, I plan on staying, you know, on the issue so that we can work with the neighbors and make sure that that neighborhood is minimally affected as possible if this does happen. You know, the issue with the records that Ms. Rosinski brought up was very interesting to me, and that I think no matter what happens here tonight needs to be looked at further as well, because we need to have all of the background we can before we can decide on any issue. And the citizens also need that. They need that information. We can't make an informed decision unless we have all the facts at our fingertips. So that's something that we need to look at after this meeting, I believe. And I don't agree that the property values will decrease. I think they will increase, but I know that's up for debate. And I was wondering, Mayor, if you would know the height of the possible fence.
according to ordinance, and then again, it has many complex areas of fence requirements. Height is anywhere from 5 to 8 feet. Again, it has such complexity to it because of the overlay district, because of, it just depends, like Mr. Reagan pointed out, this meeting is only to annex the property, has nothing to do with any of the questions that you're asking. However, I'll answer them to the best of my ability. But that is at a later date, at a later stage, whenever it starts to become up for planning review, depending on their plans. that they have to build this property, which will fall into those complex requirements.
Okay, and that's something we can discuss, and maybe possibly a concrete barrier even instead of a fence.
Well, I'm sure this will not be, depending on how the outcome tonight, I'm sure this will not be
Right.
your last
Right.
words
Yes.
on this particular.
Right, yes, you're right. Yes, sir, thank you.
Yes, ma'am. Any further? Mr. Crater?
Yeah, I would just say that if this does pass tonight, then we need to petition the DOTD as soon as possible to possibly move that signal from the interstate exit over to the VFW drive. I think that would be at a minimum that we need to do that, regardless of if this goes through or not. There's gonna be some commercial development down there, and that's something that really needs to be done. We see the problem there.
Thank you, and I appreciate you reminding me, but that has already been taken care of. We've already discussed it with Mr. Mader, and that is coming up at our next DOTD quarterly meeting. Yes, sir. Ms. Stringfellow?
And I have another idea for that, so if you could let me know
Sure.
when that happens, because I have another idea instead of another stoplight that's right there.
Please
So,
put it on paper if you don't mind.
I will.
I
Yes, sir.
appreciate
Thank you.
that. Yes, Mr. Martin?
Okay, once again, I'm listening to both sides of this, the pros and cons. If we're gonna introduce commercial, and I'm just using this as just a leadway. When the question came up about a fence, and that's deep in my thoughts right now. The city has an obligation to protect the neighborhood. City also has an obligation to protect commercial development. Now, I'm only one vote here, but if the question would come up that the city would erect a barrier, sound, whatever it may be, I would put a yes vote on that. Because right now, we have a division in, and I'm gonna call it like it is. We have the people saying, we don't want it. We have the commercial side saying we want it, and whatever it may be. But I think this council has an obligation to satisfy both sides. And I think if we could come together, and we'll find the money. Okay, it may be a grant, it may be rural development, it may be the other, may be whomever. But if we're gonna produce a righteous decision on both sides, I think the city has an obligation to be the middleman, so to speak, into this. And when the term came up with the fence, that really caught on to me, because we had to do this in a few subdivisions as well. So I think down the line, whether it's a yea or nay vote, whatever it may be, even to the point of if it's, whatever way it goes, it's gonna come up again somewhere down the line. So we might as well be prepared. I just wanna put that in everybody's mind. Thank you.
Okay. Again, just to remind everyone, it is such a complex, and our ordinance are in place already. Mr. Gordon?
Yes, Mayor, I'd like to make just a few comments. I'm very aware of the property owners there in Broad Acres, within the subdivision, along the Zag and so forth. And just want the public to know that my decision tonight was not going to be just a rash decision about what's best for the city. It also includes what's best for the neighboring property owners. And I'd like to just make a few comments about the items that I've discussed or considered. I've attended all of the public hearings and have carefully considered information conveyed by the proponents, the opponents, and recommendations of the Planning Commission. I understand that the primary concerns of residents in this neighborhood are proximity of homes to commercial use, potential increases in traffic along Broad Acres Drive, and potential changes in drainage patterns. I'm familiar with this neighborhood, the surrounding properties, and the trends in property uses along the I-10 corridor. I've met with the city's engineer, Mr. Tim Nader, and the city's code enforcement officer, Mr. Tony Duhon, relative to the city's permitting requirements for the proposed development. I understand VFW Drive is a state roadway. As such, traffic and drainage studies will have to be performed and acceptable to the Louisiana Department of Transportation Development in order for the city to issue a building permit if the property is annexed. Based on my experience as a real estate broker and appraiser for nearly 40 years, commercial development along VFW Drive is the most likely and probable use of the land. The proposed C3 highway commercial zoning, coupled with the gateway overlay ordinance, will regulate this property's use and construction features of the buildings, in addition to requirements for green space, stormwater retention, and minimum building setback distances to provide a buffer zone from the adjoining residential properties. I'm aware that a privacy fence of maximum height allowed by zoning will be installed along the south boundary of the proposed site to provide a visual buffer and prevent access from Azalea Drive. I've also confirmed that there are no plans or approval by the city to extend Azalea Drive beyond its current point of termination. Annexation will provide sewer service and eliminate the developer's need to install an on-site sewer plant, which could emit unpleasant odors to the neighboring residents. In the event this property is not annexed, the developer plans to develop the adjoining site situated just outside the current city limit. If this occurs, it is important to realize that the parish of Acadia has no zoning ordinances limiting how the land can be used or developed. In my opinion, such unrestricted use could be very undesirable to the adjoining residences. Based on all information considered, I believe the Planning Commission's recommendation of annexation and zoning of the 4.30 acre tract within the C3 Highway Commercial Gateway Overlay District is the best option, subject to all legal requirements being met. Thank you.
Any further discussion?
Just have a
Madam
question.
Clerk. Mr. Martin?
Okay, John, we as a legislative body, we have the power to amend any and enact any of our ordinance, correct?
Well, you can't add, the word any is very broad. I would
Well, I
say
mean,
no.
I'm saying, if we make the laws, we can change the laws.
Yes, sir, there's
Okay, well,
nothing.
that's, okay, we keep harping about the fence height, whether it's 5 to 8.
There's also a variance procedure for that.
I understand, but
So-
variance can be changed as well, okay?
Right, so there, and that could be something that could be brought up, but all of those items are not.
Tom, I understand that, but what we try, and we would have our, code enforcement officer over here, there'd be questions that he can answer. But right now, we fishing.
It's not germane, Mr. Martin, what I'm trying to say is that the subject matter that you're talking about is dealing with individual problems, and you're asking questions about whether or not it's legal to do that.
No, Tom.
Yes, sir, it is.
No.
That's the answer.
That's not what I asked. As a legislative body, we have the power to make changes to anything that we pass. Okay, you just said we don't. I don't know where you got that from.
You have the power within the law to make changes, but you can't make any change. You said you wanted to make any change you wanted. That's not true, sir, period.
This body is the legislative body.
Okay.
Any changes that we feel to be made can be made. And I just want to make it clear to everybody, there's no such thing.
Not if they're illegal, sir.
Well, sir, I'm not
If
going.
there are illegal changes that you want to make, the answer is no. I have to say the question is too broad. All I was trying to do is to make sure you understood that these people do not get a misimpression that you can do anything you want.
Well, first of all, I never said that. And talking loud don't get you anywhere with me, Tom. Okay, but let me just clear something here. Okay, the mayor mentioned when the height of the fence was asked, didn't he say from 5 to 8 feet? That's what he said, correct? Okay, but you had no objections to that. What I'm saying is, if we need to, just to satisfy both parties, to raise the height, we have the power to do that. That's the only thing I'm saying.
Thank you. Mr. Cavell?
I have a question.
Madam Clerk, roll call, please.
Jeff Cavell,
Yes.
Brian Moore,
Mayor, point of order. To call the question needs a second.
Yes, apologize. Sorry about that. Thank you. Call the question, need a motion, please? You call the question, need a second? Offered by Mr. Primo. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Thank you. Madam Clerk, roll call, please. Thank you.
Jeff Cavell,
Yes.
Brian Moore,
Yes.
Ed Prater,
Yes.
Lyle Goldman,
Yes.
Vernon Martin,
Yes.
Stephen Primo,
Yes.
Samuel Reggie,
Yes.
Tim Stringfellow,
Yes.
Byron Woolridge. Eight.
Okay, thank you, that's 8 yeas, 1 absent, does pass. Before I ask for adjournment, I-
You just said yea or nay.
Okay, that's all right, that's all right. Okay, I would like to make, Chief, thank you for that information. If we could have just a moment of silence. I don't know if any of you knew Miss Kitty, who used to serve on the council, and just ask for a little quick moment of silence, please. Thank you. Offer a motion for adjournment, please. Offered by Mr. Core, seconded by Ms. Stringfellow. Adjourned.
Yeah.